Welcome to Old Guy Tech,
the OGT.TV recording studio.
Technology for the rest of us.
Hey, this is Rob Charney, Old Guy Tech TV, and this is Crime Beat. I'm here today with my good friend Sheriff John DeAugustini. Hello, John.
Hello, Rob.
Nice to see you. And of course, I'm Rob Charney, Special Deputy for El Dorado County Sheriff's Department. And we're here to talk about some of the things that may affect you and affects the Sheriff's Department and some of the things that are going on. And I know that one of the new exciting things that are happening is you've got a new undersheriff.
I do. I do. A few months ago, Rich, my then undersheriff, came to me and said,
that's it.
Well, he said, it started off with, well, we were driving down the road, and he says, well, John, and I looked at him and I said, don't say what I think you're going to say. And he said, it's time. His wife was retiring from a long career for Sac County, and he says, I've called PERS, I've checked everything out. He's maxed out. He's at the age. He's there. He's got 30 plus years in the business. So he and his wife retired the same day. Wow. Last Friday was his official last day, and Sunday they left for a nice vacation. So that put me in a position of who to take his place.
Right.
It was a tough decision. I got a lot of good people in the agency, but one person has stood out since day one when I came in, and that was Randy Pichon. When he's got a long law enforcement history. Started with state parks. He's been with the El Dorado County Sheriff's Office for many, many years. He was a resident deputy up in Tahoma.
Oh, sure.
And a sergeant in Lake Tahoe, and then when I came in, he was the lieutenant over the jail in Lake Tahoe.
Right.
I changed the structure of our corrections leadership, where we don't have a sworn lieutenant up in Tahoe now. We have correctional lieutenant. So pulled him down with everything that I had to do at the beginning of my administration. I pulled him down from Tahoe and had him as an administrative lieutenant's position for a while. And put a lot on his plate, of which he just absolutely excelled at. And then he was promoted to captain and was in charge of all the corrections, all the jail systems, plus all the other collateral duties that he had, that I had given him.
You put a lot on his plate.
I did. And like I said, he has excelled at everything. He's extremely intelligent. And again, it's a lot of the same issues that I talked about with Rich, how my career was mostly operational, tactical, and budgets.
Right.
And Rich's was more personnel, administration, policy stuff. And Randy's the same way. A lot of personnel, policy, administration, that type. So, again, it still works very, very well. Saturday was his first official day. Friday night he and his wife and I and my wife, I and Janine, we had them over for dinner and had a nice little intimate swearing in. And we will be having a welcome ceremony next Wednesday at the Board of Supervisors chambers to swear him in there again as a welcome ceremony here. And then because he has a lot of connections to Tahoe, I believe it is
on Tuesday, the 17th.
Tuesday, the 17th of February, we will be back up in Tahoe at the Superior Court, where I will swear him in again in another ceremony for those folks up there, as well as new Lieutenant Matt Underhill and newly promoted Sergeant Mike Yarborough.
Excellent.
So it's going to be he's not Rich, he's Randy.
So
it'll be a new dynamic. But keep in mind that I am still the sheriff, so the direction will still be going the same way.
They believe it.
But it's going to be an exciting at least 4 years. I made him promise me at least 4.
Yeah, please.
No pension spiking and walking out the door. We're going to. I got to get your money's worth out of you. So he's like I said, he's very, very intelligent. And a very much a thinker. So we got some good things.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but what would be neat for next month? Let's bring Randy in with the three of us. Let's do a 3 show.
Okay. All right, that'd be good. And get the people to meet him and
see him.
That'd be good.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
I have to put the wide angle.
Oh, no problem.
I'll keep gaining weight.
You and I will suck in a little bit.
Yeah.
We'll put the white angle on. I can do that. But
that's
it'll
a
be
good
fun.
idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
So talk to him about that, and I know that Laura's got her date scheduled for that, so that'll be cool.
Okay.
I'd really look forward to that. So congratulations to both Rich on your retirement. We'll miss you, buddy, but good job on that, and welcome to Randy, and we look for good things out of you. Yeah.
Yes, we do.
All right.
Yes, we do.
Well, we've got a few things going on in the county. Let's talk about the Ordinance 5000, which is the outdoor marijuana cultivation deal.
Well, this one seems to draw a lot of folks to the meeting.
Yeah, does it? You
It
think a lot of
does.
them come? Help me with this because I'm confused.
Okay. Well, when I came in, well, let me back up a little bit. I'll start from the beginning. We talked about this on the show before, marijuana cultivation and medicinal marijuana.
Right.
In 1996, Prop 215, the people of California passed that, which was the Compassionate Use Act, right?
Right.
That
Right.
was people with a serious medical condition
Right.
could have a reasonable amount of marijuana and use that marijuana. It was an affirmative defense. It didn't bar you from being arrested. It didn't bar them from prosecution, but it was an affirmative defense, which means they could stand up in front of the judge and say, "But Your Honor, I have this doctor's recommendation because I'm dying of cancer, and this is the only thing I can do that helps me keep some food down and makes me comfortable." And that was an affirmative defense. Judge would say, "Absolutely, that's good enough." Dismissed.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that has morphed into where we are today, which is not the Compassionate Use Act. Now it's everywhere. You have kids, and I mean kids, 14, 15, 16-year-old kids getting doctor's recommendations for whatever, just so they can get high. And they're not going to tell me otherwise. The vast majority of them are just to get high. They're not dying. They're not seriously ill.
Right.
But be as it may, all the case law that's come since Proposition 215, there's really the district attorney's not going to prosecute them. It's not going to go anywhere. You're not going to get a jury to convict. So they're in essence lawful. So before I was elected, there used to be it wasn't really an ordinance or an agreement or anything like that. It was just a rule of thumb or an agreement that the district attorney and the sheriff had with the medicinal marijuana community that was a plant count. And I think it was 12 plants or whatever it was. You can have 12 plants. If you get 12 plants, we're not going to mess with you. Just go away. That was gone before I came in. But when I came in, I and a lot of my career, as you know, was working in the narcotics field.
Right.
Many years of my career. And I always worked since 1996 on the reasonableness issue. And when I say reasonable, I mean, okay, you're sick. Doctor says you can use marijuana, says that marijuana provides relief for you, and you're growing your plants. Is this amount reasonable? Meaning, and I sat down with many cultivators and show up at their house or at their grow site, and they had 15 plants, and they were nice plants. So, say 2-pound plants.
Okay.
So you got 30 pounds of marijuana. And sit down with the suspect and say, okay, well, how do you use it? Well, I smoke it. Well, how do you smoke it? Well, I roll joints. Roll me a joint. And they'd roll a joint, and I'd weigh it. How many times do you smoke a day? I smoke 3 joints a day. And I'd do the math, and I'd come out at the year, and I'd say, okay, well, you're only entitled to 3 pounds of marijuana, and you got 30 pounds. So you are going to call this many plants, and we're going to take them and destroy them, and we're going to prosecute you, whether or not you're found guilty or not. That's not here or there. We got probable cause, and we move on. Quite honestly, many times we go out and say, maybe they have 15 plants, but they're skinny, scrawny plants, and they got maybe 1/8 of a pound on each one or whatever. And quite frequently, we walk away. Yeah, never mind, you're fine. We walk away. It was all reasonableness, which is what the district attorney is going to use to make his determination. Well, my deputies were having a hard time with the amount of grows in El Dorado County, going out to these and taking the time to actually sit down with the patients, go over how much they use, go over the amount of plants they had, go over everything. They, along with the Board of Supervisors and the amount of complaints that they were getting for smell and traffic in these areas and things like that, we all said, let's come up with something that we can all work that's a good tool for us, that we'll be able to show up, go, nope, that's a legal one, we're out of here. Or, nope, that one's unlawful, we're going to investigate it. So we came to the table with the Board of Supervisors, myself, the district attorney, and then advocates from both sides of the aisle, the marijuana community, pro-marijuana community, and the anti-marijuana community. And we came up with ordinance, the county came up with Ordinance 5000, which was, at that time, hoped to be that tool.
Right.
The unintended consequences of doing that, when that tool, what it was it set a square footage.
Oh,
If you were a grower, you had a doctor's recommendation, you were allowed, and you were zoned a certain zoning, you were allowed 200 square feet. Period.
Right.
Had to be enclosed in a 6-foot opaque secure fence. Many setbacks.
That's what we talked about.
Yeah, we talked about that. And then for cooperative collective type grow situations, no more than 3 patients. So 200 for each person, so 200 square feet. If there were 2 people involved, 400 square feet. If there were 3 people involved, 600 square feet, but no more than 600, so no more than 3 people in any collective.
Right,
garden.
And they had to put a tag on the fence, right?
It had to be posted with the doctor's recommendation and all that stuff, and again, secure, and depending on the size and the zoning, the setbacks, and had to be so far away from schools and places where children congregate, and and so forth and so on. And it was a fairly well-written ordinance. But we made a mistake. I made a mistake. Truly, and I'll take the whole blame for it. I don't care. Just by having the ordinance, just by putting an ordinance on the county's list of laws, what we did was we hung a big sign on El Dorado County that said, we're open for business.
Really?
And we allow it. That's what it did. We have people coming from all over California, all over from other states, to come to El Dorado County to grow marijuana.
Wow.
They're not abiding by the ordinance. They don't care.
And
all
it's
they
not for medical.
It's not for medical. It's commercial. They don't care about the ordinance or what the rules in the ordinance are. All they see is that we allow it. They're coming in here. They're putting in 100, 200, 5,000, 10,000 plant grows.
Give them an inch.
These big, exactly. So after a year of this ordinance, the board came back to us and says, how's it working out? It's not. This is what I recommend we repeal it. So we went to the board, gave a presentation. Of course, the medical marijuana community filled the audience, which I preceded my presentation with. These aren't the people that we're talking about. These aren't the folks I'm talking about. The people in this room that are growing their marijuana for their personal use in their backyards under the ordinance are not the ones I'm talking about.
Right.
But nevertheless, the board decided not to repeal at that time, but to revisit the whole ordinance, come back to the table with this committee that was established that made the ordinance, and try and come up with some kind of a solution to deal with the problem.
So, isn't it spelled out? Help me on this, because I haven't read Ordinance 5000. Is it spelled out in that ordinance again, like we talked about, where you could only have so many square feet and all of that?
It is. Absolutely. It's clear as a bell. It's very clear.
So how do we have people coming up from out of the area?
Because we have an ordinance. Oh, well, you have a cultivation ordinance. You allow it. Yeah, but you're not within the ordinance.
Right.
Oh, but you allow it. It's okay.
Okay. So they're abusing.
Oh, very
what
much
you've done
so.
There.
Very, very much so.
So, but can't you still arrest and prosecute on the?
And we do.
Okay.
And we
All
do.
right.
But
Right.
we're talking hundreds and hundreds of these commercial cultivations. And to these commercial cultivators or operations, whether they're cartel, whether they're not, whether they're dispensary or whatever it is, the ones that we do investigate and eradicate and prosecute, they're a small percentage. It's a cost of doing business.
Right. Oh,
So
I
we
see.
lose. So we lose 2 and 10.
Gotcha.
Who cares?
They're willing to give up
Absolutely.
so much. I see.
There's too much
All right.
money in it.
Yeah.
So, the route is to go, do we go like Fresno County and just outright ban it, which has been challenged twice. Fresno County has won. They have a couple more lawsuits in line right now.
What would you ban?
But they've been cultivation, period.
So there's
No
no,
cultivation.
way in Fresno can you cultivate.
You cannot cultivate, period. Now, the argument is okay, well, what about those that are growing under the Compassionate Use Act
Right.
reasonably and legitimately? They don't. Those are the ones you never hear about and you never have problems with anyway. So
Okay.
the county of Fresno, they don't hear about them. They don't mess with those people.
I see.
You still have your medicinal users down there growing their 6 plants or 7 plants,
Okay.
but you don't hear about them. There's no complaints on them. There's no problems with them. But it absolutely has severely cut down, extremely cut down the amount of commercial cannabis operations that they have in Fresno County. So could we do that here in El Dorado County? Absolutely. We could say just a ban. Absolutely no. That's the ordinance. No outdoor cultivation, period.
Outdoor.
No outdoor. That's outdoor.
Okay.
No outdoor cultivation, period. But I don't think they'll go that way. I would just, and that's fine. But just get this 5,000 off the books.
Gotcha.
Just get rid of it, so that we're not we allow.
So let's step back. Let's not have this ordinance, and let's just step back to what we had.
Let's go back to the way it was. Let's work under the reasonableness and under the laws that are on the books already in the Health and Safety Code 11362.5 et sec, and deal with those laws. That's the law of the land anyway, and handle the issue that way.
Interesting. How are the feds dealing with this?
Oh, they don't.
Okay,
For the most part.
They pretty much just
Yeah.
unless it's a
There's
big,
already an order. There was an order a while ago from the feds that they're not going to deal with any state that has any type of medical marijuana law. California, Washington, Colorado, any of them that have a medical marijuana law, the feds will not engage in any marijuana investigations unless it's polydrug. So many of the bigger organizations that we run into, there's also methamphetamine, heroin, cocaine, and everything else. So then they'll come in under those angles. But just a strict marijuana cultivation, no, the feds aren't doing anything.
unless it's a cartel type thing. It's a big grow.
Well, again,
Doesn't the U.S. Forest Service still have their camp program going? Or is that done?
Yeah, yes and no, but it's you're talking about polydrug organizations.
Okay, so you're looking for the multiple drug combination.
Yeah.
I got it. All right. Okay, so that's interesting. That of course, like I said, give them an inch, they'll take the mile, and it just never fails. I don't know why it's human nature to do that, but okay. So stupid me, it's money. I know the answer to that one. But speaking of money, let's talk about the county budget and what's going on with that. I know that's another one of your bellywicks, huh?
Well, it is. Obviously, the county's budget affects my budget, and I've said it. I've been very vocal about it. I'm very upset with the county right now and the budget situation they're in, which is, with all right words and vocabulary to use, a crisis.
Right.
Over the past, in my administration, since I took the seat January 3rd of 2011, I've given the county back more than $13 million in fund balance. I'm very proud of that, and I'm very proud of my team and my staff that have worked hard to be very, very diligent and responsible with the taxpayers' dollars. At the end of last year's budget, which was my biggest fund balance yet, was $5.2 million last year. The county believed they were in good shape. They believed that they had significant fund balances on their books, and significant revenues and reduced expenditures. That they believed at that time that their budget was in good shape. What what they didn't, in my opinion, what they did not take into account was all of the negotiations, all of the labor organizations were sitting at the table for contract negotiations this year. And the board never really negotiated. They came to the table with 15%, which I'm not dogging the labor organizations. Many of them, Local 1 specifically, I believe had not had a pay increase in 7 or 8 years.
It's been a long time, right?
It had been a very long time. And they were absolutely, if you look at the pay scales throughout the region, and for us to hire and keep quality employees, you have to be somewhat competitive.
Yeah, you do. Because attrition can hurt you as much as anything
absolutely.
else. People going elsewhere. Yeah.
So, but the county never really negotiated. They came to the table with this 15%. It was 5% increase when organizations signed their contract. It was 5% at the end of that fiscal year and 5% at the end of the next fiscal year. So those that signed prior to June 30th received 10% compounded, whatever that was. So 5, 5, and 5 compounded is actually like almost a 17 or over 17% raise. So the county basically gave away 15% increase to every employee of the county, with the exception of the Deputy Sheriff's Association, who was under this 504 charter, in the Section 504 in the county's charter. And all of a sudden, between that, increases in health care, increases in decreases in some revenue streams, not as robust an increase in the economy and the economic indicators, which increase revenue streams for taxes and everything else, sales tax and everything else. Yeah. They went from looking super good to, oh my gosh, we got a $23 million deficit, structural deficit.
Okay.
So that was a big kick in the gut to me, that I thought, first of all. Second of all, that deficit has gone down significantly to, now we're talking, I believe it's $4.7 million, after promises by departments to return. Now, a fund balance is what I can save off of my budget through salary savings and everything else that I've accumulated over the year, and at the end of the year I have this much money to give back to the county that I didn't spend in my budget. This year they came to all the departments and says, you're going to promise to help close some of this budget issue, you will promise a 3% salary savings fund balance. Which to us, we run 5 to 7% vacancy rate at any given time, no matter what, continuously hiring.
Sure.
So our 1.3 was already accumulated at the beginning or the end of October, beginning of November. We were in good shape. But you have some departments that are smaller that don't have much, rely much on general fund dollars.
Right.
So their 3% guaranteed salary savings fund balance, maybe they had to freeze a position or something to meet that. And then most recently, the county came up with one of their solutions to help until we get to mid-year numbers, which will be here shortly, to know exactly where we are, because we really don't know exactly where we are until we have those mid-year numbers. Right. Was a soft hiring freeze, which I've told them, I said, well, you can freeze other departments if you want, but I'm not freezing. I'm not going to have a soft hiring freeze. I've already accumulated what you wanted. Right.
You've done your job.
I've done my job.
Right.
I've continuously done my job, and you're talking public safety. I'm not going to freeze positions and jeopardize public safety. So, we'll see where we are now. But those increases that the county also gave also does affect what my fund balance will be, because if you figure let's say I was looking at a $3 million fund balance over and above the 1.3 that I've already promised to give them. Right. So say I could come up with a say my total fund balance looked like 4.5 million. So you take 1.3 off of that, which I have to give them. Right. So 4.5 minus 1.3, 2.2. Yeah. 2.2 million. Say I'm looking at that. Well, the increases that they gave to the other labor organizations in my agency have nearly wiped out whatever that fund balance will be. So everything's going, the counties, in my opinion, they're doing everything in the wrong direction. But what is a light at the end of the tunnel that I think I see, I'm hoping I see it, is the county, the prior board started it, and this board is continuing with it, and we had our second meeting Monday for a true, honest-to-God strategic plan. Not a plan that has been done in the past and then put on a shelf and then it just goes by its wayside.
Yep.
But a true, honest-to-God strategic plan that will guide this county and guide the decisions that the board makes today and into the future. And in those meetings, one of the goals is public safety. And I'm able to sit on that committee in that group and fight for the services to provide public safety that I'm sworn to do and that I tell the folks I will do. So hopefully that will have a good outcome. The board will make some good decisions at future meetings when we've had the discussion about when people show up at any given Tuesday and got their hand out and want $15,000, $60,000, $800,000, and the board gives it to them. Is this a primary function of the county, or are we giving away taxpayers' dollars to private organizations? In some instances, yes, we are, which I don't understand how they can do that, but that's okay.
Can I get on that?
Yeah, really, no kidding. So hopefully this will stop a lot of that and just let the county focus on what their primary functions are and get those functions done. Other than that, the county can't afford it. It's not their responsibility.
Yeah. So let's go into your facility, into the public safety facility.
That's kind of on hold right now.
Okay, so that, what we were looking at going forward, now with this situation, it's kind of like, okay.
Exactly. And rightfully so. I expect the board to put the brakes on this until they get this crisis dealt with and figure out the direction they're going. And then we'll pick it back up and go. One thing that is continuing that I believe they need to continue with is the property that is in escrow off of Industrial Drive. We talked about that before on the show. It is in escrow. We have a few more months before we start accumulating extension penalties for that escrow. So my suggestion is, with the cost and the deal that we're talking about, and as long as, which it's not, everything in EIR is showing that everything is perfect, just get the property bought.
Yeah.
Just get it done. We're talking $2.6 or $2.7 million. Take my fund balance and buy it.
Yeah.
Quit screwing around.
It can sit there for a while.
Yeah. Get that done. So then at least we have that, and that's in the process now. So, but as far as the headquarters itself, for the most part, it's kind of static, and rightfully so. Rightfully so.
Remind me, wasn't part of the deal on that was kind of like a leaseback situation where we had initially there was an offer to build the facility with a leaseback situation where
the county hasn't decided what finance vehicle to use yet, but that is one of them.
Yeah,
that is one of them. One of many. A capital lease purchase buyback. Lease purchase buyback, and I can't remember all the terms.
Yeah, well, that's okay, but it just seems to me when we have an opportunity like that, it's almost, it's not taking the money out of your pocket right now, and you are, again, folks, I've talked about the facilities, and they really need to, my opinion is, move that forward. I think it's a critical issue. It's just a shame that we can't find a way of taking advantage of a situation like that.
Well, I do, and I agree with you. I think that the lease purchase, that vehicle is probably the most fiscally responsible that the county has to move forward to get it done. But as Joe Harn has pointed out, and I agree with him, no matter which way you look at it, it's still a county debt. If you're talking I'll throw off the top of my head. I think the numbers I run is at $2.7 million a year for a 30-year lease purchase on this facility. So you're talking $2.7 million a year for 30 years. That's a county obligation. Although in a lease purchase, it doesn't really show up on the books as that.
Right.
But if you think about all of the leases that the county currently has, okay, well then why aren't those showing up on the books as that either?
Right.
Because they aren't.
They're not. No, and exactly right. It just seems to me that, I mean, there's a way to make this work, because you have to lease all these outlying facilities.
Oh, absolutely.
That, if it could be consolidated into one new facility situation, you're probably somewhere near that amount.
Well, if we've, and I've talked on the show before, if I could come up with a number that would show all the savings that would match that debt service payback,
right,
then it'd be an absolute no-brainer. I can't quite come to that. I can't make that total number.
Okay.
However, when you look at soft costs and what's the name for it? I can't remember. Things you can't put your finger on, like we talked about the deputies and the detectives talking on a regular basis to help solve crime, the interaction, the time it takes for my fiscal guy to walk down across the parking lot to give me my budget, and back and forth from my support services guys on Upper Broadway to deal with internal affairs investigations and citizen complaints and all that stuff, and all that back and forth that's not being handled in an efficient manner.
Right.
How much savings is realized by having everybody together under the same room, and how much more efficient public safety can we administer if everybody is under the same roof and talking?
And again, this was one of those deals where you really can't put $1 on it, right?
But it's invaluable. Those are invaluable.
Yeah. Well, we hope moving forward that we all will be able to get this going.
I'm too hard-headed.
Oh, I know
it's going to happen.
Well, even if it doesn't happen in your time frame that you're looking at or would like to have, it's got to happen. We know that. And, there's a lot of us out there that support you, so
Thank you.
You're going to get a lot of help on that one. So there's the situation on that. Hey, let's talk about, we'll go a little over our 30-minute here, because I want to talk about cameras. And, the big talk in all the law enforcement agencies is, do we put video on our officers other than, the dash cam situation? Do we put a camera on each of our officers? Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? It could go both ways. So what is your opinion, I guess?
What's my opinion? Well, first of all, when I heard the president step up and say he was going to give how many millions of dollars to local jurisdictions to outfit their peace officers with body cams, number one, the feds have no place in this, but that's my personal opinion.
Right.
Here's my thoughts on it. We have the dash cams in our cars. We have vehicle cameras.
Right.
I'm not completely against body-worn cams. I'm not. However, my deputies already carry around enough equipment. They already got enough things to worry about, and they have one more thing to worry about with another camera they're going to be put on their body that I guarantee you the first time one of them doesn't work, the question is going to be, why did he turn it off? Well, no, he didn't turn it off. It didn't work. No, he turned it off. We have that now with the vehicle cams. That happens now with the vehicle cameras. I trust my deputies. I trust that they do a good job, that they're carrying out our mission and our vision in the proper manner. Do people make mistakes? Absolutely. Have I made mistakes? Absolutely. But we deal with our mistakes and we move on. Until I see that it is absolutely that much more beneficial to the profession that we are in and the communities that we serve, I'm not sold on it yet. I think there's still too many bugs. I think there's a lot of questions that need to be answered that aren't answered yet as to the implementation and the long-term use and data storage
Right.
of such technology. I've heard of a couple agencies already that have body-worns and dash cams, and under Public Records Act requests they've been hit with to release all of that. We're talking terabytes of information that by law we can only recover so much cost for, so which doesn't even come close to the cost of just buying a terabyte hard drive to copy it to. So you're talking there's a lot more than just putting a camera on a body and say go to work. There's a lot more things, policy driven, risk related, liability related, technology related, cost related, budgetary issues that I haven't seen yet. I think it's still too new, and while I always believe that we need to stay at the tip of that spear on technology or we get left behind, this is one that I want to stand back and take a wait and see attitude to see kind of where we go with this.
If the technology doesn't kind of catch up, because you're right, there's obviously things that people don't think of. I think the Freedom of Information Act and all of that, the fact that you're going to have to store all the video from all the deputies from every shift.
Yeah, that's a lot. We do that now with our cars.
Yeah.
We do that now with our cars, and it's a lot of storage. And, we're constantly upgrading our storage and putting in more storage, and we'll continue to do that for our cars.
Yeah.
And quite honestly, it's been very good for us. When that first came out, I was in Amador at that time. I was a deputy when I had the first patrol cam in the county, in Amador County. When I was the city's deputy, when we started that pilot program, they put it in my car, the very first one. And it was it had a VHS tape, and I had to put it in, and I took it out every day and booked it into evidence, and we had a 1-week rotation. We never even kept them forever.
Gotcha.
But since then, it's come, everything's digital.
Right.
And quite honestly, what I started this conversation with, this part was, it has gotten my deputies many, many, many more times out of trouble.
Right.
Than it ever get anybody into trouble. You get a complaint. Your deputy passed me over a double yellow. He didn't have his license sign and almost ran me off the road. Really? Well, where did this occur? What time was it? What day? Yada, 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 yada. You go back and you review the tape and you go, wait a minute. What are you doing driving this way and driving in front of them and whatever? I
think that's the attitude. My point is that's the attitude it should be. It's going to protect the deputy from frivolous complaints or lawsuits or whatever it may be, because now you've got somebody that didn't necessarily tell the truth. Imagine that. And this could help the department. So.
The vast majority, 9 out of 10 times, it exonerates the deputy, then finds the deputy guilty.
And that's a huge percentage. And I think as the technology grows, it'll be hopefully simple enough that once the deputy puts the camera on, it's automatically on, and it's just done, and they don't have to do anything or worry about anything. And I think it's probably going to go to that point.
But we'll again, like I said, I'm kind of at a wait and see. Sure. I'm still at a wait and see on the UAVs. I'm still not there yet, even though I see a huge officer safety and public safety benefit to having UAVs. Most people would call a drone.
Right.
We've had perfect example, the barricaded subject right after Christmas on Green Valley, Cold Springs Road, where we ended up saving him, but the house burnt.
Right.
We had 2 robots in that house. We had a $25,000 SWAT robot. We had a $300,000 EOD robot that we lost in that house.
Whoa.
They have these UAVs in such a situation. We could have had a UAV in there, in and out, in and out, in and out, 10 times.
Right.
And with a couple of the vantage points, seen where the suspect was, and had maybe even a much earlier solution to that incident than we did. We've talked about it on the show before. I'd rather put a camera on a UAV than put a deputy's head somewhere.
Right. Right.
it makes a lot of sense. But I'm still at the let's wait and see even on that one.
Yeah, I think you're going to be close. The technology's catching up, and I think that's a great idea. Did you hear somebody flew one into the White House?
I did.
Oh,
Oh, now you're hearing all that.
Oh, my God. How'd you like to be the guy to explain that one? Well, all right. It kind of got away from me.
Me? Oh, but it could have been. I heard of listening to the news. It could have been armed with, and then I guess it could have been. So what? I mean, there's a lot of evil out there, and it could happen anyway.
It could. It could have some explosives,
or biological, or
or
whatever.
whatever.
They said.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Yeah, I suppose it could. I've been in discussions with guys with that, and now they're talking about having to, almost like having a pilot's license for your UAV. And yeah, they're going to add more and more, because all of a sudden now the government's saying, oh, look how easy it is for them to see what we've got and what they're doing. And so they almost want to put like a beacon on each one of these that sends out a ping. Here we go again. Like the big aircrafts, but it's a unique identifier. So if your UAV pings, they know it's you.
That's why I like living in the country.
Yeah.
If I see one of those flying over my house,
It's trap time,
that's
man.
like trap shooting, wouldn't it be?
I've warned people. I had one pop up on the back side of the property. I swear to God. I stood out there. This one went zzz, and I knew he had a camera, and I went. And next thing it goes. Zzz. Because the next time I see it,
Trap shooting.
I better shoot it. It's my airspace, man. So, those are the funny things. Well, hey, we've covered quite a bit in the show, I really always, as I say, I enjoy having you every month here, and we'll look to maybe getting Randy into the show next month. And is there anything else on your button issue? We've covered everything pretty much this.
We've covered
this
a lot.
Yeah.
Just, support my deputies, pray for my deputies, wave with at my deputies with all 5 fingers whenever you see them, and
absolutely, and and all 5 fingers. And one of your deputies, I know we were going to talk about mail theft, and that is an issue that's ongoing and in the county. And we'll leave this for another discussion. But however, we were hit with mail theft, and one of your deputies actually found the balance of our mail in a ditch. And he was in the process of trying to bring it back to me when I happened to go out, and I was hunting him down. I knew he was out there, so I went to find him, and did a great job. Totally professional. But what could you say? You could see that was all ripped into, and
right.
Unfortunately I lost some stuff. But
right.
But yeah, the deputy was perfect.
I know we're already over, but we can talk about that for a minute. The mail theft. We are seeing another rash of mail theft throughout the county. My suggestions, if you don't have a mailbox at a group mailbox area, like in your main mailbox, post office, whatever, that's one of the solutions you can do. Get your mail every day. If you let your mail sit in your mailbox for 2 or 3 days before you go get your mail, don't do that anymore. Get your mail every day. If you can't get your mail every day, get a post office box.
And our thought is we're going to get a post office box for certain things that we want to make sure aren't. I mean, we won't use it for everything, but there are certain items that are expensive that we may order through the mail.
Yeah.
And we're going to just have that stuff go to the P.O. box.
Yeah. Try and get your mail every day. And then another thing that we were talking about earlier before the show started was Prop 47. This is another perfect example of Proposition 47. If your mail is valued at anything in that mailbox valued at less than $950, if they steal some checks and they write $900 in checks, or whatever property they steal out of there, it's only a misdemeanor. It's only a dang misdemeanor.
Yep.
So,
but report it.
Absolutely.
Go online and report it. I've got some of these guys are so. I said it's easy. Go online and make an online report. That's the only way that we can get that information to
absolutely.
Your department.
If we don't know that it's occurring,
right,
we can't solve the crime. And if we don't know you're a victim, and we run across something, we may not put 2 and 2 together. So, if you don't feel comfortable going online and reporting, like I've said before, call us. That's what we're here for. We'll come out. We'll take the report.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's very, very easy, folks. So you can just go right to the Sheriff's Department. I did it, and it took me a couple minutes. I was done. The report was in there. So something to think about. Be safe out there. Watch for this stuff. If anything looks hinky to you, make sure you report it to the Sheriff's Department. And I want to thank you very much for supporting Old Guy Tech TV. John, once again, thank you very much for coming in and doing Crime Beat with us. And I think most of the people out there will find it very, very informative. And actually, we enjoy doing it. So we'll see you next time.